Today on Social Media Meltdown, Joe and myself will be talking about constitutional rights and how they apply to social media use. Because right now, over the last couple months, they've been blurring the lines between what's legal and what's not legal, and what's protected and what's not protected. So I thought maybe we could investigate a little further. And obviously, there's no clear answer, which is why we're debating it. But maybe we can kind of make some good suggestions.
Make some sense of it all?
Yes, make some sense out of it all.
So absolutely, welcome to Social Media Meltdown. I'm Joe.
And I'm Caitlin.
She's over there. And let's dig into it then. This is a heavy topic.
It is. And I almost don't even know where to start.
Well, I'll tell you where we should start. We should start at the very beginning. It's a good place to start. But the very beginning. Constitutional rights. How do they translate over to social media? Do you get them all? Like, just because it's written in a constitution, it's not like the internet is ran by America, you know? Like, there is a lot of different countries and entities that are on the internet, and is it something we can apply to the internet, or is it up to the governments themselves? Who gets the rights? Should everybody get it?
I think the way that it's been looked at is wherever you belong, those are the laws that you have to follow. So as an American, we have different rights as people in China, which we see a lot with their censorship over there. So that's allowed, whereas here it wouldn't not be allowed, although they would probably try it.
No. What are some examples? I know in China they have the Great Firewall of China that kind of keeps out most of the traffic, but it is able to be routed around if you know who to talk to and what to do. That's a whole other show. But what kind of traffic in China is being routed? What Chinese traffic are you not? Like, if I was in America and I Googled something, what can I Google in America and Google in China and get a completely different result or no result?
There's a lot. I don't even, off the top of my head, what's not allowed. I know there's greatfire.org, which will actually test websites to see whether or not they're blocked in China.
So wait, that's greatfire.org?
Yes.
And you can test to see if the site would work in China?
Correct.
Let's see if Just Cool Enough works. Greatfire.org.
Wonderful Googling it.
Are you doing it? It's in Chinese for me. It's all Chinese. I don't understand it. But I think like one of the main parts about I kind of don't feel like it should be sanctioned by each country. I think there should be like an internet bill of rights, if you will. You know, like just when you are a citizen, you're a citizen of the internet and not the country, because...
So we would have dual citizenship?
Yes, we need passports.
I mean, and there has been movement in that direction. Obama has Internet Privacy Bill of Rights. The internet at large has tried to write its own Bill of Rights, but none of it is official or really binding at all.
Well, I mean, and how do you regulate it, you know?
And that's another thing. I mean, when a government sees something they don't like, what's really going to stop them from saying, you can't look at this anymore, which is, you know, what China has been doing. As soon as they come across something, they come across a video, they come across a news article, they're basically blocking things in real time as it's published.
Now, I don't think that the citizens really know that that's actually happening, though. Most of them.
I would say, and the majority, no, they don't even realize it's even happening. So they don't even know to get upset about it. So And that's part of the problem, right? I mean, if they don't know that their information is being, watered down and things are being withheld from them, how can they cause a change? I mean, we can't change their government from here. How do we let them know that their knowledge is being compromised?
I think that brings something else up. Like, whose jurisdiction is the internet? Is there? I mean, we can't change the government from here. That's something. But should we change? Should our rules be the rules that all the other governments follow? I don't think that that's necessarily the case, and I think like in a perfect world, the internet would be its own entity. I don't think that that's something that's actually accomplishable. I don't know, like I don't know how that would even be feasible, because there's always a physical.
I never thought about that until you just said it, and I kind of like that idea, but at the same time, I don't know how that's possible either.
Yeah, I mean it's totally pie in the sky, like.
Yeah.
If there was the internet country, it'd be full of cats and bacon. It would.
Yes, cats would run rampant.
Bacon shops left and right, and open air markets filled with bacon.
Yes, it would be a crazy town. But and then you would have real life memes walking around.
I know. Oh my gosh, Chocolate Rain guy, he's so old. Somebody get that guy on life support.
I'm getting so excited thinking about Internet Town.
I know, that's an episode in itself. Internet.
I want to live there.
We do.
That's true.
It's true. We're making our own little city.
So I guess let's talk about some of these examples that hit closer to home. So that, I mean, talking internationally is so way beyond what we would even know what to deal with.
Yeah.
So let's move back into the United States to see how some of these cases apply to our Constitution here, since most of us are more familiar with that. Okay, so I'm assuming a lot of people have heard this story. There's a Marine who created a Facebook group called Armed Forces Tea Party Patriots, and it was a way for him to voice his into President Obama's healthcare overhaul. And he's being investigated by the Department of Defense, and I believe he has been dismissed from the Marines. I haven't been following it closely as of lately, but they've asked him to shut down that page, which he did, and then supporters of the page just restarted up again without him. So his word still lives on, but he's still getting in trouble for what he did. So shouldn't that be protected under freedom of speech, or
you would assume
am I totally
so?
Wrong?
Well, I assume that anything that you're saying, as long as it's not slander, should be protected under freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think the where it gets a little muddy is the fact that he is an employee of the government and mainly a Marine, right? Like, mm-hmm. That's where things get a little bit crazy. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it, but maybe I'm a little crazy, I don't see anything particularly wrong with that. I think a little criticism can go a long way, and sometimes it's good to hear the other side of the story. But
I mean, and he's been quoted in saying that he wasn't meant to be a part of a group that spoke out against the government or against the president, and that he respects the president and that he will follow his orders because that is his job.
And that's
However, he still has an opinion.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I think you sacrifice a little bit of your freedom to protect the country, and you kind of, it will limit your speech, but that's an assumed thing. You know that's going to happen. You know that going into it. I think the group kind of got away from him. Like the internet did its thing, and it grew so fast that, I mean, and you can't really moderate something like that. There's no hierarchy in place.
Should he have been held responsible for what the community in that page had said and was doing?
Well, that's a good question. What was so bad about it?
It's just basically it was speaking against the president, and that it was started by someone who is in the armed services, and all political stuff ends up going south at some point.
Yeah.
That's what happened on this page, and it wasn't him participating in it as much as it was he owned the page. And then the more publicity it got about this guy in the armed services holding this page, the more, and more people wanted it shut down and were speaking out about it. And then the people that were fans of the page, got a little crazy because that's what they do on the internet.
Obviously.
And it all just got a little out of hand.
So, I mean, I don't think you can hold him responsible to it because, but it was his group, like he had the power to shut it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
He could have if he wanted to. So when rubber meets the road here, it is his group. I mean, I guess you kind of do have to hold him responsible to it because somebody else can just as easily make another group and try to start that fire again. I think that maybe if he truly felt that his message was not being relayed, then he wouldn't keep that group up. So I would kind of squarely place the blame on him on this part. What do you think? Am I being a jerk? Tell us at Social Media Meltdown at justcoolenough.com.
Tell Joe he's being a jerk and that he just set back the free speech movement hundreds of years.
Maybe I did.
Thousands of years.
Thousands of years of free speech have now been ruined.
I mean, if he wasn't going out there and doing harm or giving us a reason to not trust his loyalty to the country, but he has said many times, even in the group, that he doesn't. It's not that he dislikes the president; he dislikes his choices as far as healthcare. That does not affect his ability to protect the country and protect its citizens. So I don't see the correlation with why he should have, had to deal with what he did.
Well, I'm not a fan of people, blindly following orders and things like that. I would assume that, that this person has a reasonable grasp on common sense and things like that. And everybody's entitled to an opinion, but once you start up once you are part of the armed forces, you do sacrifice some of your rights. I mean, I'm pretty sure you sign a piece of paper that says, like, I'm protecting citizens and now I get less rights and, and I'm going to get shot at. It's not a great deal. It really isn't.
In so many words, that's what it said.
Well, yeah, I'm paraphrasing. But I don't think that it should be I don't feel like that's taking away a constitutional right if it really is causing harm. I don't see the harm in it either, so it's hard for me to argue any other way.
All right. Well, then, okay, let's move on to the next example, which includes everyday people like me and you.
Oh, good.
Okay, so true or false, your First Amendment rights protect your thumbs-upping on Facebook, your liking on Facebook. Is that protected by your First Amendment rights?
I don't believe it is.
You just bummed me out so bad. Okay, why don't you think... Why don't you think the like button should be protected by freedom of speech?
No, it absolutely is. There's no two ways about it. It's just speech on the internet. It's just a different form of expression.
It's actually not.
What?
Yes.
What? It totally should be.
A judge in Virginia, if this went to an employer, took an employee to court because they liked something that didn't, fit their standards or whatever it was. And this judge deemed that the thumbs up is not a constitutionally protected free speech.
Now,
and it was at a district court in Virginia.
I could understand that, though, because Facebook is a lot like a resume, or it's almost like an advertisement. And if you affiliate yourself with a company and you put something like hey, I work for XYZ Corp, and I also like animal porn. And somebody's going to make a correlation that XYZ Corp likes animal porn just because you guys have it together on Facebook. Now, I don't think that a company should come in and tell you how to run your Facebook and this and that, but I can see why the judge ruled that way. It kind of sucks, It
does. And the circumstance, actually, now I'm remembering what it was. A local sheriff fired 6 of his employees because of various reasons regarding Facebook. But the one that this whole story ended up being about, that, ended up trying to take it to court, he liked on Facebook the sheriff's political opponent.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
He was in Virginia.
But isn't it, not only is this freedom of speech, isn't being able to choose elected officials protected in our rights?
I know, right? Like, for people to be held to, like, their political affiliations affecting their job.
Persecution?
Yeah, like, totally. That's awful. That's absolutely awful. I think that what happens when kind of new technology is released is, like, it runs rampant for a while, and it gets all this innovation, and it's great. And so we have the internet here, and it's completely bloomed and flourished, and it's changed the world. It's spectacular. But what's happened is it's changed too fast, and the government hasn't understand it, still doesn't understand it at all. And so what's happening now is the government is trying to grab all the pieces back together. Like, we don't have any control of it. And the job of a government is to govern people. And if they don't have control over an area, they don't want to, they don't have any power over them. So, I mean, the job of the government can be debated, that's a full statement. But as a government official, you are supposed to be representing your people here in America. The thing is, right now, we're in that overreaction phase of new technology being implemented and used. I am trying to think of a good example, of way back when technology was just used like this. But it's really hard because there's never been a phase in human existence where things have progressed so quick, and we were able to interact with each other and see the human experience on the other side of the world. So I think that governments are completely on edge about this whole internet thing, and they don't know how to. We don't have. It's like legislation is always like 20 or 30 years behind the times. And right now we're in that kind of growing pains period where we're trying to make up legislation that makes sense, but we're using old world legislation to do this, and it's completely hampering the way the internet works. And it's also, I mean, with things like SOPA and ACTA and all that other PIPA, and like right now the government is just trying to soak everything in, and like, all right, we got to plug all the leaks, we have to understand what the people are doing. So, but the internet is this great thing where we can actually fight back and become unified quicker than ever, and outmaneuver the government. So it's really a great push and pull, and I just love to see the drama, unfold here. I hope it unfolds in our favor.
I'll never admit it, but do you think deep down, especially our government, I mean, some governments have just decided, how we're going to take care of this, we're just going to block everything, and now we have all control. However, they don't have that option here, because that's definitely something that would not go over in this country. And I know they want to admit it, but do you think that they also feel like they have absolutely no control, and that can they ever get control? Or is things just going to keep changing so fast that this is something that they're just going to have to pretend like they have under control, but in reality, we're running and doing whatever we want on our end?
See, I think like on our end, we see it as control, and on their end, they're looking for public safety, and so like I don't believe that the ideas stem out of pure evilness. At least I hope not, because then the world's a really dark place. But I really feel like they have the best intentions in mind, but they don't know anything about the internet or technology, so they just pass this awful legislation that's actually severely limiting to innovation. But to get down to what you're saying is, I don't think that they can. I don't think there will ever be an ability for the government to control the internet. But directly, indirectly, corporations like Facebook are and can be swayed by the government, and it can be a conduit to I don't want to say manipulation, but a conduit to the government, a kind of interfacing between us Facebook and the government, or I don't want to say Facebook, any
the
social.
main contributor to the great firewall of China is Google. Google helps them a lot, and whether it's something they agree with.
But I thought Google closed their offices out in Shanghai and stuff. I heard that they dumped, like they were like, you know what, this isn't a market for us. We're really gonna have to jump out. I'm sure people are still Googling things though.
Well, as of June 1st, USA Today reports Google's still helping censorship in China.
But how many cases?
Actually, I'm sorry, I read it wrong. You are correct.
Yeah. Damn straight.
I have fake news.
Okay, cool. But that's awesome. Like I think like companies like Google, and I don't want to say Google's completely, no evil free. Their motto is do no evil. But a company that is well ran. I can't believe
I said something so bad about Google. I really feel awful right now.
I apologize.
It's my cold.
It's the cold.
I'm off a little bit.
But no, that's the thing. Like I think if we can get a couple of good companies that actually represent their user base to something like that, like they don't want to work with China because they don't like the way Chinese government is so involved with stuff. Like in order to do business in China, the only way to do business in China is to be owned by the Chinese government. Like you have to have a 51% stake in Chinese like GM. We always talk about car companies because we're from Detroit. But okay, so like car companies like GM, for them to be in China, they're owned by some Chinese subsidiary in China and port over stuff. Like it's not a normal thing like we're used to here in the US or the EU or all of the 170 whatever sovereign nations around the world. Like it's a little bit different. We keep going back to China because that's like an extreme example, but I maybe like as far as like controlling the people, the Chinese government's doing a really good job of that. Like their censorship is off the wall. This firewall is really hard to get around, and the only way you can get around it is by using proxies, and you're only going to do that stuff if you're in the know. Like
as the masses come, it's not going to happen.
But
it's not happening for most of the people.
I've talked to international travelers that have gone to China, and they said that they were able to access things like Facebook temporarily, but it was cutting in and out, and that was about a year and a half ago. Like they could access it and they couldn't, and I don't know why that would be because I thought it was completely blocked.
So did I.
Yeah. So that's kind of weird. That was the closest, I think a year and a half was the last update that I've gotten from anybody that's been over there. So it's really worrisome.
I know that someone that my mother graduated high school with is now living in China on assignment for her job. And my mom talks to her on Facebook. I haven't been able to get her to ask the right questions to answer that for me on how it's possible.
Yeah.
And what they're doing. Is there different rules for Americans when they go over there?
Maybe they had like internet visas, like temporary internet visas.
Which is also a great idea.
Like, oh man, I don't know. You go to China and you can't access your Facebook and your Twitter and things like that. They all, but that's the thing.
Die.
But they have Chinese alternatives. Like I believe is it Baidu? I think that's their big search company. Like that's their Google, and they have I forget what their Twitter's called, but they have like cheap knockoffs of all like the westernized brands. I guess cheap knockoffs might not be the greatest thing, but I don't think anybody from China is going to be able to listen to this podcast because I don't think anybody's going to be able to search for it.
I don't think so.
I'm sorry, Chinese people. You're missing out on some great stuff.
Yeah, our show is great. I had a really great thought and then I forgot.
I'm sorry. It's okay. It's your cold. But I mean, so we've been really roundabout about things, and
it's because there's really no clear answer on all of this, and I keep thinking back to the beginning of our conversation when you said that there needs to be maybe general rules for all users and dual citizenship to the internet world. And I almost feel like maybe not just for the internet, but maybe as a whole, there needs to be like a set human rights almost. Like it is our right as a human to have access to the knowledge that's on the internet.
Well, the thing is, like, the internet is a technology. You know, like, it's a very important technology to us right now. But I don't know if we can say, I don't know if we can say, like, you know, every human needs this as a right.
But it's not just a technology; it's also a resource and a place for information.
But
so there, it is your basic human right to be able to know things and to know the truth.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's a really, like, that's an awesome thing. But like, are we making a play here for a Bill of Rights, like, international, you know, like the Earth Bill of Rights? Or, I mean,
possibly.
So you would put the internet on there, like, every person deserves the internet.
Yes.
So
like oxygen.
But what now? What? But the internet is it's not like shelter, you know, like shelter or food. You can survive without the internet. I'm playing devil's advocate here because I believe everybody should have the awesome internet with them at least speeds that are capable to stream YouTube videos.
Okay, and I'm not saying that people need the internet as they deserve the internet for recreational purposes. Like, I'm not saying that people in China should be able to get on Netflix because that's all that matters. They have the right to know what's going on in other areas of the world for their own knowledge. They have the right to not be oppressed or swayed in one way or another, because by filtering the information in these countries, the government is ultimately forming the mindset of the people in their own country.
But I mean, you have to look at it from the government's point of view. I mean, they're going to look at it and say, why would we allow this free thinking or this exposure for people to collaborate and collaborate, get together, and overthrow us, like what happened in the Arab Spring and in Egypt, you know, and you know, Egypt right now is really
obviously not doing something right if everyone wants to.
Yeah, but the government, the man isn't always out for your best interest, right?
That I understand.
Right. I don't know. I guess we kind of sound like conspiracy theorists right now.
I know.
I don't want to.
Well, so then Obama came out with these internet privacy bill or the Internet Bill of Rights, which when I heard about him, thought that's awesome that he did that. Like, he really cares about.
Wow, thanks. You really understand technology.
And then they were kind of dumb.
Okay, so let's go over a couple of them.
Consumers have the right to exercise control over personal data collected and how these companies use it. I feel like most of these are just picking at Facebook.
Okay.
So.
Well, I mean, like a do not track option. I think that's kind of something like that's being built into browsers.
Mm-hmm.
I think Firefox and Opera and a couple other browsers have this do not track feature where it won't let the sites cache information on you unless you say, yes, you can collect information on me. So that's kind of something good, but I don't mind that. You know, you can collect a little bit of information about me if it's going to make the ad that I'm going to see be about a car video game, because that's totally up my alley. You know, like, I'm done.
We talked about this before. Like, I love the internet knows all this crap about me because right now I'm looking at this really awesome furniture ad here, and it's great.
Yeah, like, I was looking at cars, and I was like looking, and it's like, why not try this? You know, why? I'm like, oh, I haven't looked into that. Wow, this is pretty awesome. I'm gonna take that for a test drive.
Mm-hmm.
Totally, it works. So that's I give it a thumbs up. Sure.
Thumbs up. Okay, so the next one is transparency. Customers have the right to easily understand and access information about privacy and security practices. So you gotta make it easy for them to know their choices.
Okay.
And what you're going to be doing with those choices. And they have to be able to easily change their choices at any time.
Okay.
And like I said, a lot of this we've seen over the last couple months with different privacy changes in Google Plus and with Facebook and Twitter. Especially with Facebook, there's always announcements about new privacy settings, and they want you to go in there and read it, because this all has to come back to this Internet Bill of Rights from the Obama administration.
And like companies like Google and Facebook are being audited for the next like 30 years on privacy. So there's because there's so many lawsuits against them already, that so they have people that are out, on the lookout for this, trying to protect our internet rights as online citizens.
And I don't want to and leave out Apple as well. They're making huge strides to make sure that all of their app providers are asking for the right information, are making these settings and offering this information to people that download their apps. And they actually, you see it quite frequently. I can't remember what it was. There's a very popular app that just recently, maybe within the last month, Apple, gave them the ultimatum. You either change. I believe that they were collecting data whether or not the user wanted them to. And selling it. And Apple gave them X amount of time to change, and they refused, and they're no longer available in the App Store.
Well, I think what happened was it the New York Times that did that? It was like wasn't it a big publication?
It was something big.
Maybe it was USA Today. What happened? I think Apple uses this Bill of Rights in a nefarious way because they're kind of using it to block people from buying things that aren't in when you buy something in iTunes, you know that it's going to be bought in iTunes with this account all the time. I think what that app was doing was it was opening up a web page and saying, okay, now you can subscribe to this web page, so your data wasn't being processed through iTunes. And that's a violation of Apple's terms of service, because all purchases made within the app need to be made through iTunes, so they can take 30% cut off the top of it. So they were circumventing that. So it came down to money on that one. But you could spin it as totally like a privacy thing.
Now, there was another example, and I just can't think of what it was. I tried Googling it, but I'm finding a million things. But they do. They go through and they make sure that...
I think that's good, though. It's good for the ecosystem to keep things the same, and it's good for privacy.
There's something I have on my phone. Okay, doesn't matter. They do it. So, let's move on. Respect for context. Consumers have the right to expect that companies will collect, use, and disclose personal data in ways that are consistent. So they can't alter your data or sway it in any way to make it fit in a different mold. They have to respect the form that the data came to them in.
Okay.
So, I'm trying to think of an example, but it's kind of weird rule. Do you have anything that goes with that one?
I guess this one I kind of don't like, because what it's saying is, here's your loophole. It says, respect for context. Okay, so I want to buy a speedboat. Okay? And obviously, because I want to buy a speedboat, I'm going to need life insurance because I'm going to die on the speedboat. I think like something like that, it wouldn't be that hard for a company to say, well, they're buying a speedboat, and historically, people that have speedboats have life insurance, so this is why we sold their information to this life insurance provider. So this law, I give a huge, this thing here, this Internet Bill of Rights, I think it's a big thumbs down, because it's just a big loophole for companies to float through. So great. You just taken out all the teeth of everything that you put into it.
Okay, so the next one is security. Consumers have a right to secure and responsible handling of personal data.
Great. Thumbs up to that.
Stealing my crap.
Okay.
Thank you, LinkedIn.
Are you still mad about that?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Okay.
Over it.
Moving on. Access and accuracy. Consumers have a right to access and correct personal data in usable formats in a manner that is appropriate to the sensitivity and risk associated with the data. That's a long sentence.
I know, I'm trying to understand what they're trying to say here.
So you have the right to access and change your personal data easily. And
Good data. This one just looks like
that is appropriate to the sensitivity and risk of.
There is something down further. It says like companies that handle the personal data should what is that?
Accountability. Companies should be accountable to enforcement authorities and consumers for adhering to these principles.
So it's up to the company to make it accurate. There's no template for it. So the company can argue and say, well, all you have to do is click through these 500 different links and type in your password, and well, that's accessible, So again, accuracy and stuff. There's a lot of vagueness going on here that just makes me uneasy.
And that's why this whole, and then there's one other one about focus collection, and that's kind of why I don't like these Bill of Rights. I was so excited about them.
Oh yeah, it sounds like a great idea.
The administration was like, yeah, we're gonna take a stand and we're gonna
make a Bill of Rights to protect the internet, people, but there's there's loopholes built into this Bill of Rights, and just
I think it was all for show.
It totally was. I
was like, I'm gonna win over the internet people and sign this.
Yeah, but luckily the internet people can do a little bit of googling and find out this legal jargon. It's not even that legal jargon. Like they kept it pretty good, but I think there's loopholes built right into it. And the other thing worse than loopholes, there's no set course of action for violating these rights. It's like, hey, you did real bad, internet company. You did real bad. Well, what are you gonna do? There's no plan in place to say like, hey, this is your first offense. Now we have 10 years of government oversight. It's like, okay, now we're going to go through the legislative process. Well, that's great. The legislative process is still 20 years behind on the technology. It's just not exactly where we need to be. Now, we've done a lot of whining and complaining, and I think that it's really great that we can do that. It has to be acknowledged that we're using our free speech right now. And I'm sure somebody's going to watch this video and be like, well, you're using free speech right now. And they're not going to watch this far into it. But it's truly like some places, like China, cannot freely speak about these policies and be free and be as candid as we are. And that's the beauty of it. This is out here for us to see and congregate on. And I think that as an internet, as a collective, we have the power to do a lot of good. So right now we're in a quagmire of awful things, like a government trying to get their hands in the pot, and we have to defend what's ours.
We're all about conspiracy
theory.
Oh,
I know. Today it's just been. I feel like I need to go into the basement and do the show from like a little light hanging here. They're coming to get you. They're coming. Don't trust anyone.
I really just feel that the internet's way too big for our government, at least, to handle. And
if something hits the fan, it doesn't matter because there's multiple ways to get through these pipes and get through the tubes on the internet. Just because there's one way that's limited doesn't mean there is not another way. And I think in the plug section that's coming up right now, I will talk about one since it sparked my interest now.
Go ahead, plug away.
Well, I have to grab the site that I want. So do you have a plug?
I actually do not have a plug. I'm pulling a Joe today, and
oh no,
I had nothing fun happen to me.
Nothing fun? So you couldn't find anything to plug?
Nothing fun on the internet? Okay, here's my non-plug plug. I love my iPhone on T-Mobile.
Yes.
I love it, right? I live in Detroit, near Detroit. It's wonderful. It's great, even. I have no problems with it. I went away from the city this weekend, which does not happen often. And my phone did not work. And when I say my phone didn't work, it's not that I had really crappy internet. I had no internet. All my rest of my friends with T-Mobile had crappy internet. I had nothing. Because I was already on 3G, which sucked as it is. And I was on an unlocked phone, although it is factory unlocked.
You paid the premium. You got the unlocked.
I got the legit phone, and nothing. I couldn't use my phone. I could make calls if I wanted to, but who am I going to talk to on the phone?
Who talks on the phone? You want to hear something crazy? I used over 1,000 minutes last month.
Who do you talk to?
I know, right? I used like 1,000 text messages, 1,000 minutes, and I used like 5 gigabytes of data. It was
You're loving your new phone, aren't you?
It was. I mean, I didn't realize it. I was like, oh my gosh. It wasn't actually 5. It was 2 gigabytes, but way more than I expected.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm going to end up switching to a major carrier, and even though T-Mobile's kind of up there in the major carriers, but...
It is, but you know what? The problem is I use Sprint right now through Ting. I'm using Sprint, and the problem is Sprint's just not fast enough. It just isn't. I have... The 3G connection is palatable, but I find myself longing for the T-Mobile network because the great thing about T-Mobile is there's nobody on T-Mobile, and they have a really fast network for the amount of people that they have. So, it just usually when you're in a city like normal, like when you're not out in Chesapeake Bay or wherever the hell you were, I don't even know.
I was in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere, Michigan. Like that's where T-Mobile's the worst. Did you have any Sprint people by you?
Everyone I knew, their phones were fine, and I know they're all Instagramming away, and I can't do anything. And
no wonder you're so quiet this weekend.
Thankfully, I had my iPad, which is on Verizon, so I could at least, get on a little bit, but that's still cumbersome. I'm getting ready to go way to northern Michigan, to the Upper Peninsula, which people that aren't familiar with the Upper Peninsula, there's nothing but trees up there. There's not even, people don't even really live there, I'm convinced. And I'm thinking about switching, because I have a 4G Android phone that I gave up to use my iPhone on 3G. So I think I'm going to have my SIM card switch back just momentarily so that I can have the internet, because I'm going to be gone for like 10 days.
What would you ever do?
I don't know. Instagram's available for Android, so I'm not really worried about it. What am I missing out?
I met somebody in the wild today. I met somebody in the wild that was using a Galaxy Note, one of the giant, 5.6-inch touchscreen phones.
Yeah.
And they went from an iPhone to this, high, super premium Android phone, and they love it. They absolutely loved it. And
Where did they put it?
I didn't get there yet. They had a big crack in the screen, though. And I'm like, you already cracked it? She was like, yeah. I have no place to put it, and I dropped it. I have a case for it, and I dropped it while I was shutting the case because somebody, hugged me, and it dropped on the phone. She has this $700, if you weren't going to get a contract, $700 phone with a giant crack in it, and she's too afraid to send it out because she doesn't want to go 10 days without a phone. But she went from an iPhone 4GS to the Note, which is a premium Android phone, and she loves it. She said the worst part was the fact that the keyboard, even with a giant screen, was still not as good, but she recommended a keyboard for me that she really liked that types just as good as the iPhone. She was like, oh yeah, once you get this keyboard, then this thing's cruising. It's great. So
the screen quality doesn't compare on any other phone than it does to the Apple devices.
Especially now that they're
the response and the speed, and it doesn't get any better.
Have you used the Galaxy 3G? The Samsung Galaxy Nexus is a really good phone, and the Samsung Galaxy 3G, I think it's just the 3. Anyway, I'll give you a list of ones because you're not gonna be happy if you just go with some rinky-dink mid-grade, even mid-high grade Android phone.
Oh, I'm not getting rid of my iPhone.
Yeah,
I'm switching back to my old Android.
But I want you to have a good user experience.
Up the end of the summer, and I'm staying with my iPhone on a different carrier.
So you're just gonna move carriers and then but what's gonna happen is you're gonna bring your device to the network. Are you gonna get locked into another 2-year contract?
Yeah, probably.
Well, that's awful.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. You're gonna get locked into You're gonna get locked into another 2-year contract, and the iPhone 5 is gonna be out in 3 months.
This is the best part. Well, I may do prepaid until the iPhone 5 comes out and use this phone.
Yeah, that's what you need to do.
and then sign my 2-year contract. Well, because I'm on a family plan, so my parents will go ahead and go because they don't really care what the heck kind of phone they want. But we don't even know which to pick between the carriers yet. I don't care as long as they have an iPhone. My dad gets to pick based on who has the simplest flip phone.
Oh, yeah?
Which is actually really hard. T-Mobile no longer offers any super
Like
simple
basic phones?
flip phones that don't go on the internet. That's what my dad wants, so he can pick.
Well,
So
lucky
anyways, are you ready
you.
for your plug? Because that was my unplug.
The unplug. Well, I couldn't find what I was looking for, and I want to make sure I nail it. So I have a spare plug. And it is actually a show on the Revision 3 network. If you want to kind of get a little bit more detail in kind of cool, like techie, almost hacking, hacktivism. If that's kind of like your thing, you should check out Hack 5. I imagine if you are watching the show right now, you may have heard of it. Maybe not, though. It's on Revision 3. Just started watching it today, actually, and I was really impressed the way they went over some really like hefty stuff, like setting up a proxy, and they were explaining it relatively simply. And if you want to get a little bit of tech under your belt to prepare for when the government takes over and you have to make your own darknet server, and the only way we can connect with each other is through ad hoc networks that we've put up ourselves, what will happen? Well, you should go, arm yourself.
I'm exploding.
I swear, right? Like,
at the thought.
just in case, you might want to watch Hack 5 so you can prepare for the inevitable government takeover of the internet. We leave tonight on a grim note. Thank you very much. If you want to get in contact with us, you can. I have my Twitter. It is twitter.com/SpeedyF40. And then there is that one over there. She's got a Twitter. What is it? I forgot.
Shelby, and it's way better than yours.
I believe that it is just far superior on so many different levels. One thing that you also should do, if you have, we covered like some pretty hefty topics today. I think you should hefty. Oh my gosh!
Your brain is exploding.
Right. I think that if you want to send us an email, you can at socialmediameltdown@justcoolenough.com. And the 30th. The 30th is approaching very quickly.
It is.
Where are we going to be, Caitlin Shelby? At Caitlin Shelby on Twitter.
We are going to be at Social Media Day in Detroit at Motor City Casino and Hotel.
Hosted by Mashable.com.
Yes. And it's going to be awesome. I don't want to give away too much yet, but we're definitely going to have some really awesome conversations and try to get some people to sit down and talk with us, so you can hear other people speak besides the two of us, because who wants to just listen to us?
We could probably listen to ourselves speak. We're so vain.
I could, but it's nice to get a breath of fresh air. So
yes.
We'll get some other people in there, and it's going to be fun. It's an all-day event, and by all day I mean a couple hours.
An all day for internet people.
It is. That's a long
In
time.
internet land, a work day will be no more than 5 hours.
That should go on the Bill of Rights.
It will. Let's make our own. Internet Town, USA.
Yes.
We just need to buy like a really big, like decommissioned oil vessel, and then we could string it out into the middle of the ocean and start our own internet land. I hope you like fish.
I know.
I don't either. It's gonna be awful for us. We're gonna have to fly in chicken fingers or something.
Here comes the helicopter. It just drops chicken fingers from the sky.
Every Thursday is chicken finger drop day, please.
Taco Tuesdays. We run out there with baskets to catch the tacos.
I got one with sour cream. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching and listening. Nailed it.
Tacos.
Tacos.